Hello everybody. Welcome back to my channel where stories and other random things take center stage. Um Welcome to today's video and happy Saturday morning or Saturday in general. I'm assuming you've noticed uh the change in schedule, which I do remember announcing in or will be announcing because I haven't filmed it yet. My February wrap up. But anyway, so that's a thing. So I will be announcing that. And so but you guys have noticed I had to change due to my how busy I have become with school mainly. Anyway, so I am here to share my first recommendations for after Castles and Their Bones. So I'm sorry, not Castles and Their Bones, Ash Princess by Laaura Sebastian. What? Okay, I'm still thinking of Castles and Their Bones, but because I read Ash Princess before, but Castles and Their Bones came out before I read before I reviewed Ash Princess. Anyway, so I am going to do that, but if you haven't seen my Ash Princess reviews, or any of my Laaura Sebastian content in general, I will be linking the Laaura Sebastian playlist so that you can see any reviews you like. And so yeah, so it'll be linked there as well as the Ash Princess reviews, so that if you just want to see Ash Princess, you'll find it there. So I usually separate my recommendations based on how much recommendations I have on, but I think I'm gonna change that, and I'm gonna separate them between reading and watch list instead. Let them be as long as they will at this point. I'll try my best to make them, yeah. Anyway, so we're gonna go over the reading list today, and that will do for now. So the first two recommendations are Half Sick of Shadows and Castles in Their Bones by Laaura Sebastian. Again, Laaura Sebastian playlist will be linked below so you can watch all my videos based on these different stories. But yeah, so Half Sick of Shadows is an Arthurian retelling but in the point of view of Elaine of Shalott, and basically it is loosely based on the poem The Lady of Shalott by Tennyson. I don't remember his first name, but Tennyson. And we have that. And it's basically Elaine, Arthur, Guinevere, Morgana, and Lancelot were all friends, and they eventually go to Camelot. But Elaine is the one that kind of has the visions, and now they're basically on a quest to put Arthur on the throne. But the question is how much is Elaine willing to sacrifice to change the visions of how everyone is supposed to end up, and what line is she willing to cross? Castles and Their Bones follows three sisters that were trained basically since their birth. They were trained in deception, seduction, and had to do what they need to break monarchies. And they're each sent to 3 different realms because their mother wants to conquer the continent. But they realize that everything their mother tells them is very different. And the question is, will they stay loyal to the realm, or will being abroad change their views on things? That's basically what it's about. It also has the message, everyone underestimates a girl. So yeah. Also great. The next 3 books I have talked about before countless times: Throne of Glass, A Court of Thorns and Roses, and Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas. So easy for me to recommend these. Like, these are like the biggest things I think I recommend. Throne of Glass follows as 18-year-old assassin Selena Sardathian. She is in the mines of Endovier. Facebook notification 14. Speaking of that, thanks, Aylin. That's my phone now. I call my phone. Anyway, so we follow Selena, and she is in the mines of Endovier. basically paying for her crimes against the Empire. But she is approached, or like the crown prince comes and she's approached by him and offered a deal to serve her father as his assassin or champion for 4 years, and then she'll be granted her freedom. So the catch is that she'll have to serve as Dorian's champion in this game first, where she has to defeat 23 other men who are thieves, warriors, soldiers, and so on, and stuff like that. She accepts and she moves into the castle, but the problem is that if at some point one of her competitors dies, and then another, and then she has to figure out who is killing the competitors, also keep herself alive. A Court of Thorns and Roses starts off as a Beauty and the Beast retelling. Feyre kills a fairy, and she is taken by one of the Fey Lords to the Feylands in order to live her life there, basically as punishment. But she realizes there's a blight on the land, and then at the end she has to, break the curse. Crescent City, where there are now, I am happy to say, there are now 2 books out. House of Earth and Blood and House of Sky and Breath. So we follow Bryce Quinlan, who is kind of known as a party girl and everything. So one night she goes out, but when she comes back, her friends, especially her best friend, including her best friend actually, have been killed. 2 years after that, the person or people that killed her friends is active again, and she works with this angel, Hunt Athalar, to figure out who is doing this, and who basically killed her friends. The angel specifically is doing it to try to gain his freedom, so they both have something to gain out of this. Okay, so the next book I have is An Ember in the Ashes by Saba Tahir. We basically follow Laya, who is a scholar, she and her people are basically enslaved to the Martial Empire, and they have they are, living in terrible conditions, most of them. But anyway, so she lives in the scholar quarter, and her brother had been gone for a while when he comes back that night. But it turns out they are now oh wow, I can't talk today. The Empire, the Marshals end up at their home and attempting to take her brother, because he apparently is allied with the Resistance, so that he is taken, and she ends up seeking the Resistance in order to get her brother. But they give her an impossible mission. In exchange for getting her brother back, she has to do something for them, and that is spy on the commandant of Blackcliff, which is the military academy, which is basically pretty impossible because everyone who ends up there ends up dying. And then another point of view that we follow is Elias, who is a soldier of the Empire, who actually would like to escape it, and he has been planning to, but he now is forced to stay because he is the Emperor. The Emperor's line is basically about to fail, and he is one of the aspirants chosen by the augurs to participate in these 4 trials that will determine the Emperor. So, yeah. The next 2 books are And I Darken and Camelot Rising by Kiersten White. Anti-Darken is kind of hard to explain because I haven't read in a while, but it's really hard to explain. But we follow Lada and Radu, who are the children of Vlad the Impaler, if I believe I'm correct. If I remember correctly, I think his name is Vlad. And they are sent to the Ottoman court, and we basically see their relationship as it comes with the prince as well as themselves. I don't really know how else to better explain it, and we see Lada's character change. It's very interesting. Um, Camelot Rising is an Arthurian reimagining where we follow Guinevere, except she isn't Guinevere. She is a changeling who has been asked by Merlin to protect Arthur, but she doesn't quite know from what. So she marries him, becomes queen, and now has to deceive Camelot and basically figure out what exactly is happening. And unfortunately, she has to also keep the secret of her magic. So Mm-hmm. So 9 is Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. There is a prequel, but the main series follows Katniss Everdeen, who basically ends she's one of the she lives in District 12 and she hunts to have her to help her family survive. But she ends up volunteering to go into these games that basically pits the villages against each other. In the Hunger Games, they choose a young woman and a young man from each village um, in order to fight and to the death and like a battle royale style thing. And whoever wins, basically, depending for what village it'll have to be for that time. Um, it'll be for that village. Like basically, whoever wins will be that person will basically be rich in that village. So yeah, and she ends up volunteering in place of her sister who was originally chosen, and she goes there along with Peta Millark, who has had a crush on her ever since they were kids. So they go along there, and yeah, they go into the Hunger Games along with Haymitch, who's supposed to be their trainer, and Effie Trinket, who is supposed to be like their I guess she's like their almost like their host ish, but she's in charge of them basically. The next book is The Bridge Kingdom by Danielle L. Jensen. So this originally follows Laaura, who has one main message for her husband when she marries him: I will bring your kingdom to its knees. So she basically, she's the bride of the king of Ithacana, and she is basically figuring out a way to let her kingdom into there, basically in there, to conquer it. She has been trained on killing as well as seduction and a lot of, and all this stuff ever since she was 5. And she goes along disguised as an innocent peaceful bride, as an innocent basically bride of peace, but she has other plans. But as she is in Ithacana, she is seeing that things are a lot different than what she was told basically. And from there, we follow her as well as other things that happen, as put by the third book. But that's for another time, I guess. But you can see the reviews, which I will show. So yeah. The next 2 books are Blood and Ash and, well, their series, Blood and Ash and Flesh and Fire by Jennifer L. Armentrout. Blood and Ash follows Poppy, who is who's been basically she's the chosen maiden. And she's the maiden, and she's basically been sheltered. Like, she's not allowed to interact with people. She's not allowed to interact with people. She has to wear this veil every time she and everything. Like, no one's allowed to really see her face except a few people, like her personal guards and her lady's maid / her friend. So, and of course the Duke and Duchess. but very few people are allowed to see her face. That's the point. And because of that, she doesn't know as much about the world and everything, but at some point she ends up meeting Hawk, and he becomes her guard, but he starts making her question things that she kind of already knew, and love blooms. Flesh and Fire is a prequel to Blood and Ash, but we follow Sarah, who is basically her grandmother, I think, if you look at it that way. And she was also technically the maiden, but she was also she's meant to be the mortal consort of Niktos, and she has been trained in seduction and killing ever since she was a kid. And she has this one mission, and that is to have the god of death fall in love with her, become his weakness, and then she will kill him in order to save her kingdom, basically. But she ends up falling in love with this person. She starts she kind of meets this person, and everything that happens between them kind of takes away the darkness for a while, and she does find out that he is the god of death, but also finding that things are not what they seem to be. And it is a great book. They're both great books. The next book is The Scholomance by Naomi Novik. It starts off with a deadly education, and basically you have these kids in this magic school. We mainly follow Elle's point of view, but basically you have these kids in this magic school, and they have no teachers. They're basically unsupervised. The school basically is supposed to take care of them, supposedly. And what ends up happening is, though, that they are targeted by these creatures or so on, or whatever. So they do have a way to study, because the school provides them with the things that they need to learn and everything. Like, it appears on the board, they get these books, and it's a lot. It's hard to explain, but basically they have to do all these things in order to survive and not have these creatures kind of kill them. So they have to survive in this school before they go into the real world, and they have to learn their and they basically have to learn their magic by surviving and not getting killed in this school. Literally, this is the best way to describe the book. And the last reading is Nimona by Noelle Stevenson. This is a graphic novel. I mainly know about it because there's an audio form. There's an audiobook form, and I love it. It's amazing. But Nimona follows our titular character, Nimona, who wants to be a villain and approaches this guy who was the main villain known because he's a pretty big villain, supposedly, and they form a relationship. And they have quite the interesting thing. So they have this relationship, and they form a great friendship as they're trying to do certain things to the heroes. It's kind of middle grade-ish, but it's great. It's powerful. Those are all the reads I have. I'll be back soon for part 2. I believe before I get to part 2, I'm gonna have a wrap up. I think it's my March wrap up, but honestly, I haven't filmed any of that yet, so we'll see. Anyway, so I'll be back soon for a part 2, and anyway, I'm off. If you like my content, consider subscribing and commenting if you have any other recommendations, as well as any feedback, and I'll see you soon in my next video. Until then, consume stories. Bye.
Voiceover unmuted. You are capturing on device select 19. 1.60 gigabytes. 1.60 not show capture device select. Stop recording.